Hello everyone and welcome to part 1 for week 3 of the Node.js course here at Hack Your Future. My name is Andrzej Gajduk and I will be your teacher for this week as well. As you know, we start the first part always with a recap of what we learned last week. So if you just take a second and think about all the different concepts that we covered in week 2. Okay, if you guessed something of the following: REST, HTTP, CRUD, Web APIs or RESTful APIs or Postman, then you're on the right track. So I will go in a bit more detail for every one of them. So we have REST. Now there are two key points to remember about REST, and that is resources and the operations that we can do on those resources. Then we have HTTP, which is a protocol for talking on the internet, or kind of the language of the internet. And HTTP has many concepts in it, and we covered a few last week. The most basic one being the request and the response. Then we talked about how the request and the response have a body and headers, so headers and body. Also, of course, there is the URL, and the URL has a part in it which is called the host, and also a part which is called path. And then we talked about different parts in the request, which is called HTTP method, which can be get, post, etc. Then we talked about what else is there? Yeah, the response has a status code. I think these are the most important things that we covered. Then we talked about CRUD. I hope this is visible. Let me make it a bit bigger. Then we talked about CRUD. What does CRUD stand for? If you can remember, it is create, read, update, and delete. And these are the four basic operations that every app has to have. And each one of these operations then in RESTful API maps to a HTTP method. So create maps to the HTTP method post, read maps to get, update maps to put, sometimes also patch. I've seen sometimes also post, but in our course we are just gonna go with put. And then delete maps to delete. Sorry, capitals here. And then finally, combining all of these things together, we have a RESTful API. RESTful API. And the key concept to remember there is that the URL for RESTful API consists of the host name first and foremost. Then in the path we have the different resources, for example users, and then based on the HTTP method, so the path defines the resource that we want to work with according to REST, and the HTTP method defines the operation that we want to perform. For example, this would be a URL to create a user. Sorry, not the URL, but this would be the URL and the HTTP method. And if you, let's say we want to update the user, that would be a put request, example.com users, and then the ID of a user 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. So the idea with when you need to specify a certain user, the ID, a certain resource more general, the ID should be part of the path in the URL. And again, the HTTP method tells us what kind of operation we want to perform. And to be able to test all of this, we also briefly covered Postman, which I hope everybody has got some experience with, because we're going to use it more this week as well. Well, that was for the recap, and see you in part 2. Bye.